you could be fined $750,000 or even banned by the NBA.
But I take, full responsibility.
This is what happens when you cheat in the NBA. And this is Scott Foster. He's been a ref in the NBA for 29 years. And this is Chris Paul. Now, there's something suspicious going on between them. Whenever Chris Paul is in the playoffs and Scott Foster isn't reffing, he has a record of 70-54. But what makes this weird is what happens when he is reffing, because he only has a record of 3-17 when Foster is a ref. And he even had a 13-game losing streak, going all the way from 2014 into 2022. Fans and media are starting to notice, labeling it the Scott Foster curse. And they even went as far as to making a petition to remove Scott Foster from the NBA. Now, this could be a coincidence or it could be cheating, but something that's definitely cheating is what this fan did to James Harden. This was back when James Harden was unstoppable, averaging 29 points and shooting 10 free throws a game. I mean, he was cooking everyone. So when the Rockets matched up with the Jazz, one NBA fan took it upon himself to stop the beard. Security kicked him out of the game, and he was banned from the NBA for 1 year. But an NBA fan trying to blind James Harden is one thing, because J.R. Smith has a problem with shoelaces.
Chandler out of the game, there's no reason to settle. Attack the rim.
Yeah, for those just tuning in, he has an upper respiratory.
I get a call from the league, and it's just like, oh man, you're trying to sabotage people. Da, da, da. I'm like, have y'all ever played basketball before? Oh, so he can't run full speed because his shoes untied. That's what it is.
JR thought it was all fun and games until the NBA fined him $50K, all for just untying a couple shoelaces. Now, if you think $50K is a lot, you have to hear about when the Dallas Mavericks were fined $750,000 for cheating. On April 7th, the Mavericks were fighting for a playoff spot. They were the 11th seed, and only one went away from a shot at making the play-in tournament. The only problem is, if they made the playoffs, they would have to give up their first-round pick. So they decided to go against the NBA rules and lose on purpose. They sat all their best players, including the majority of the starting lineup, like their new point guard Kyrie Irving, and their best player Luka Doncic only played in the first quarter. 1 week later, the NBA fined the Mavericks $750K for losing on purpose or tanking. But this wasn't the first time the Mavericks were in trouble for tanking. Owner Mark Cuban was fined $600K in 2018 for publicly admitting that once they could make the playoffs, they started losing on purpose. This guy is just made of money, but Markieff Morris isn't. Because although he has a net worth of $20 million, that's nothing compared to Mark Cuban's $5.1 billion. So when Markieff was fined $15K for cheating, that hurt him a little more than Cuban. There was only 5 seconds left for Damian Lillard to win the game. He went up for a layup and got blocked. But I bet you didn't notice a player on the bench got away with blatant cheating. This is Markieff Morris. He's not even in the game, and if you look closely, you can see him grabbing Seth Curry's shorts. Now the refs may have missed this during the game, but the NBA didn't miss it after, fining Markieff $15K for grabbing his shorts. But at least he was just grabbing his shorts, because we got players in the NBA that are pulling theirs down to make the other team miss. I mean, we got Cole Anthony right here, and then this guy on the Raptors over here. I just don't know what's worse, flashing your opponent to make a miss, or the fact that it's happened twice. And NBA players aren't the only ones cheating. Back when there were no fans allowed in arenas, players were getting used to shooting free throws with no distractions. That was until the Toronto Raptors mascot tried to make Devin Booker miss.
Green, this is on the free throw from Book, his first free throw attempt. You see the Raptors mascot. You know, when there's nobody else in the building, you kind of stand out.
He really had beef with the mascot. Now, mascots are known for doing anything to help their team win, but I bet you didn't know about the most feared little girl in NBA history. This is DeMar DeRozan, DeMar's little girl, and in a winner-go-home game against the Raptors, there was no way DR was letting her dad go home. During every free throw, she would scream, and it was heard throughout the entire arena.
Man, and Patrick said I was down for whatever Coach Hamilton wanted, and going to go against DeRozan, a chance to put it up to a 20-point advantage for Toronto. Misses the Raptors shoot. She's screaming.
The Bulls only won by 4, and she was the MVP of the game because the Raptors only made 18 out of 36 free throws and blew a 19-point lead. But Raptors fans didn't find it funny. She had to be escorted out of the arena after receiving threats from fans in the arena and all over social media. Bulls fans truly believed she was the reason they won, so when DeMar said she couldn't come to the next game against the Heat, everyone thought their season was over. And they weren't wrong, losing to the Heat 102-91. I don't know if she was technically cheating, but she was definitely doing something. But if we're talking about NBA players cheating, we can't forget about Dwight Howard, because he tried pulling off the ultimate prank. When he checked back into the game, he had sprayed stickum all over his hands, and the first thing he did was grab the ball and rub it all over, right before Paul Millsap's free throw. Even though sticky substances aren't allowed in the NBA, they decided not to fine or ban Dwight, but the refs did have to switch the ball out mid-game. And rubbing stickum all over the ball is one thing, but what Rajon Rondo did was way worse. This was back when the Warriors had Kevin Durant and were one of the greatest teams ever. So when Rondo and the Pelicans matched up against them, he tried everything to win, even wiping his own sweat on the ball. That's just straight up nasty. But enough about cheating in the NBA, because we have to talk about two former NBA players that cheated in China. Eric Bledsoe and Michael Beasley both left for China after their NBA careers were over and ended up on the Shanghai Sharks together. Now, there's nothing wrong with playing in China, but these two former stars would be in the middle of a fixing game scandal. It all started with the Sharks and Dragons matching up in a playoff game. The Sharks were down by 4 points with a minute and a half left in the game. Then all of a sudden, the Dragons turned the ball over 5 times in a row and were suddenly showing a lack of competitive effort, almost like they were trying to lose. The Sharks scored 10 points in a row and ended up winning the game by 4, and after an investigation, both teams were disqualified from the playoffs. They were fined the equivalent of $5 million, and both head coaches and general managers were suspended from the league for up to 5 years. Man, China doesn't mess around, but neither does this coach, because in a regular game against the Nets, Spencer didn't when he tried passing to Kyle Kuzma. That's when he decided they needed 6 players on defense and hit the ball while on the sidelines.
Because it's getting kind of out of hand right now, JK.
The worst part was, not only did they cheat, they got away with it too, but only for a little bit, because this assistant coach was fined $10K once the NBA realized what he got away with. At least the Nets got the win. But you can't say the same thing for when Jason Kidd tried to cheat his way to a win, because with only 8 seconds left, the Nets were out of timeouts, so Jason Kidd had the brilliant idea to tell his player to hit him, spilling his drink and giving him a few seconds to draw up a play.
The crazy thing about that whole situation, besides the fine was a little bit too much, was that Paul got a great look to tie the game.
Yeah, he did.
He missed it, but we had no timeouts, and I had to try to figure out how to get guys in position.
Right.
And Paul got a good look.
Kidd was fined $50K, and they still lost. Talk about a waste of money. And it's one thing when players cheat in the NBA, but it's a whole nother thing when refs cheat. This was back when Kevin Durant was on the Warriors, and they were the most unstoppable team ever. Like I said before, players were literally trying anything to win. So when the Rockets matched up against the Warriors, it was coming down to the wire. And with only 33.5 seconds left, the Warriors needed a bucket, and that's exactly what Steph Curry gave them. But before he made the go-ahead bucket, the refs made it obvious who they wanted to win the game.
It'll be interesting to see on replay if Durant was out of bounds as he saved that ball. Out.
Absolutely, he's out. Wow.
How in the world do you miss
how
that?
do you miss that?
That may be the worst call I've ever seen, but if you like watching players cheat in the NBA, then you'll love watching NBA players do weird jobs. So go watch it right now.